Hi everybody! Baking and cooking for 2 people only is not really worth the effort, we think sometimes. But our French bakery in town is closed for the weekend, so let's do some real good French croissants. And you do the effort only once and you enjoy it for 3 breakfasts. For the ingredients, I'm using 660 gram all-purpose flour, 20 gram sugar, 10 gram yeast, 1 egg, 10 grams salt, and 200 milliliters milk and 200 milliliters of warm water. First I'm adding the liquids and then the sugar and yeast. Mix everything a little bit and then add the egg and the flour. After a minute of kneading, I'm adding the salt and fire up the kneader for about 10 plus minutes. It's a good time to take a break or play with the dog. 10-15 minutes later, the dough is done. I'm not really a talented baker, and based on my clumsy movement you can tell I have not really any experience. However, this is relatively easy to do, so if I can do it, you can do it. I'm taking out the dough into a bowl so it can raise for another hour plus. But before, let me show you the consistency. This is how it feels and looks. It's soft, not too hard, but also not too soft, just perfect. So cover it up and let it rise for minimum 1 hour. You can also put it into the refrigerator and let it sit until the next morning, that's perfect too. I let it rise for about 1 hour outside the refrigerator and then I put it into the refrigerator for another maybe 45 minutes. The dough rises, I'm starting to prepare the butter layer. I'm using some parchment paper and some cold butter out of the fridge, which I cut into thirds. And wrap the 3 pieces into parchment paper. Then with rolling and beating, I'm trying to shape it into a nice sheet of butter. That takes a little bit, and maybe once I have practice, this is the first time I did it, it might be easier. But as you can see, even if nothing goes super well, it still works. I can cut off the weird edges into a nice rectangular shape. And I simply add the cut off layers of butter back into the middle. So I can close it up again and make it a nice even shape. Once your sheet of butter is formed, it also goes into the fridge to the dough for at least half an hour, so it can also cool down again and become a little bit more stiff. After 45 minutes in the fridge, the dough is ready to be processed. Take it out of the bowl and start shaping it into a rectangular shape. I did croissants once before. I used a different method where you basically shape 12 different pancakes and then you spread soft butter over each pancake and do stacks of layers of these pancakes until you have 12 pancakes on top of each other. I did not really like that process. It was too messy. I don't like to mess around with soft butter and such. Quite honestly, this method of folding the dough over hot butter was much more for my taste and was actually simpler than I expected. Once the dough has its shape, we unwrap the butter sheet and place it on the dough. I was a bit lucky. The width of my dough sheet is a little bit bigger than the width of my butter sheet, which is exactly how it should be. Now I can fold the dough over the butter and tighten the edges. If the dough is too soft, put it back into the fridge for half an hour or the refrigerator for 20 minutes. My dough was still firm enough, so I kept rolling to do the first fold. Once you rolled your sheet of dough wide and long enough, you can fold it into 3 elements like that. Wrap it into your parchment paper and put it back into the fridge so everything can cool down and become more firm again. It should not be too soft, otherwise you will not have the nice layers you need. In case you are in a rush, put it into the freezer for 20 minutes. Otherwise the refrigerator will do it. Half an hour in the fridge is the minimum. If you need more time or you have something else to do, it doesn't matter, keep it 2 hours there. I'm now starting the process to roll it out for the second folding. They call it tour. Be careful when you roll it out. Don't go too deep right away. You see all the air bubbles coming out as the dough still rises. So nice and soft. Get it flatter and flatter until it is maybe about 5 millimeters thick. Try to form it into a nice rectangular again. Pull out edges or roll more on the edges if you need to. It doesn't need to be perfect, but the better it looks, the better it is. Wipe away any leftover flour and then do the folding again. I think the flour wipe-off is important, but I don't really know why. Since my dough still feels pretty firm, I'm doing another roller to do the third and last fold. Again, if it would be too soft, put it back into the fridge. The dough layers start to become so thin that you can see the layers of butter in between and lurking through. That's pretty interesting, and again easier than I expected. So this was the last fold or tour. And then put it back into the fridge for another 30 minutes plus. My dough cooled down again and is now ready to be processed. I first cut it into 3 pieces, but if you're only a couple like me, you don't need as many croissants. You could also cut it into 4 pieces. One of the 3 pieces made 6 croissants, as you will see later. So if you cut into 4 pieces, you will get 4 croissants out of 1 piece. The 1 piece I'm processing right away and put it aside. The other 2 pieces I separate, wrap them and put them into the freezer. This way I can, at any point in time, start to make fresh croissants the next morning, take out one of these pieces in the evening before in the refrigerator, and then process it the next morning to get fresh croissants. So next time our French bakery is closed, I'll have a solution. I'll take out a croissant pack and process it. So here is how I process one of these croissant packs. I roll it flat until it has a thickness of about 5 millimeters or a quarter of an inch. I pay less attention to the actual shape and width. Some people work with a tape, measurement tape. I think that's overkill. This is just for us and not for a bakery. So I rolled it flat into a quarter of an inch and then I cut it into pieces. Then I cut a little bit of the end of the triangle, pull it apart and start rolling it up. Softly, don't squeeze it, and as I roll it you can pull on the end to make it a little longer and thinner, and softly roll it in and place it on your baking sheet. I'll do it the same way for the rectangular shape. This is the shape I may be doing some chocolate croissants in the future, but thus far I've not tried it. Again, this is the first time I made croissants with this method. So far I'm very satisfied. They have to rest now for at least 2.5 hours in a warm place. Alternatively, you can put them into the fridge until the next morning. For the coating, I used an egg yolk and a little milk, but you can also use egg yolk and water. I think at the end it's the same. The croissant rested now for over 2.5 hours, nearly 3 hours, and they nearly doubled in volume. That's awesome. I take that egg yolk milk mix and coat the croissants nicely. Now they are ready to bake. I preheated the oven to 210 Celsius. I'm adding some hot boiling water down there to generate some steam and put the croissants up there. Bake them for about 17-18 minutes. I had them in there 20 minutes, but don't keep it too long. Voila, they are done. Don't they look awesome? Allow them to cool down a little bit and then you can eat. Outside crisp, inside soft, with nice air bubbles. Oh, and the taste, I can't really give you the taste on YouTube, but you will see when you try out.